Welcome to Session Sunday. Hi guys, it's Jack Edwards and today's session is focusing on passing and moving. But before we get into this week's video, make sure to leave us a like and subscribe, and if you missed last week's video, click on the link above. Moving into the first part of this week's session, we're going to be taking a look at a passing and moving sequence to move the ball high. Okay, but first off, let's have a look at how many players we're working with this week and the equipment that we'll be using. So we have 12 players this week, okay, 12 outfield players, so no goalkeepers involved. But obviously if you have goalkeepers, we can try and include them in the small sided games and the possession drills, okay, which we'll be moving into in part 2 and part 3. So you're going to split your group into 2 groups of 6 for this passing sequence, okay. In terms of equipment, we're going to be using balls, bibs, cones and poles, okay. If you don't have cones, then obviously you can just use cones, but we try and use the poles so that players interpret them more as defenders, okay. And obviously we spoke about the past that they focused it on their movements away from the pole a lot better than when you use cones. So how we're going to have a setup here, okay, we're going to have 30 yards of depth and 30 yards of width. So from the start point here into this middle player, it's just going to be 10 yards. And then we're looking at 20 yards, okay, from the middle point into the highest available player here. And then our width, so the wide point here is obviously the 30 yards is there, and then these two are 5 yards further in, okay. So obviously you're going from 0 to 5, and then you're obviously going another 20 yards to here, and then 5 yards further across there. And then these ones in here, they're not going to be very far at all. It's just going to be 5 yards in there, 10 yards in there. So again, 5 yards in there and 10 yards to there as well. It just depends, obviously, how far you want the players to go. This player in the middle could be even further away. So just judge it on whereabouts, obviously, what age group you're working with, how far you want players to travel, and so and so. So obviously, you might start off with this player in the middle being quite close, and then you might move them further away. So how the sequence is going to start. I'm going to start with the player here. They're going to take a touch out. The player in the middle is going to get on the ball. Okay, it's going to get played in. Okay, they're going to open out. Okay, and play across. The player who was at the start point will make their way across to here into the wide area, and at the end of the sequence they'll move into the middle. So we've got lots of movements in this drill. So the player in the middle who's then played the pass out wide will then look to move up, okay. So they're going to create space for themselves, because then when the player out wide here opens out, okay, they're going to play forward, okay, into a wide position. It's going to get played into their feet, okay. For this player will have made their movement back around, okay, to receive it. They're going to play in. Once that player plays in here, okay, this player starts to move out to here, and then this player begins to move forward. The player who's set wide will come back into play, okay, so they're going to move onto the ball, which the middle player sets. After they've set that ball, they're going to move out wide, okay, and then the player who's receiving on the run here will play into the wide player who's set back, okay, he's going to move up into this position here, with the player who started here moving out wide, okay, and then it's basically just going to follow the pass into this other wide area. So really the players are just moving up one each time. This player will then open out, okay, into space, with the player who started, obviously, is the start point coming wide, moving inside to receive it, okay. Once that ball's getting played inside, we want this player here to travel, okay, so they're going to travel, receive it, take the ball forward into space, and then they're going to play through for the next player, and then they're going to join back the queue. Then we're focusing on the timing of this run back into the middle of the pitch, okay. So we're focusing on our movements, okay, as well as our passing today. So as soon as they've set that ball out there, they're then going to focus on, okay, once that ball's travelling, can we get in here? So when this player takes their touch out, we can move and go again, okay. So we're playing in, we're playing out, okay, this player's going out there, okay, and this player's going to move up to create space again. So when this player receives the ball, they're setting into here, okay, and then they're going to make their movements, This player's going to come onto the ball, so we're keeping the pace on the ball at all times. It's going to get played in first time, okay, they're following their pass, they're moving up, open out, okay, this player comes inside, so then obviously in a game situation you've got a chance for someone to go in the overlap and receive first time, or this player can obviously drive into space inside the pitch. It's set, okay, and then they're going to make a move inside, touch in front into space, and then playing back to the start. Okay, so obviously we can change the angle and go the opposite way if you want to. So we're focusing on that movement on the ball, okay, movement off the ball, and it's got to be sharp as well. So it's not just going to one cone to another, okay, so we're moving the ball quickly to move higher up the pitch. We will now move into our first animation before moving on to part 2 of this week's session. Okay, so moving into part 2 of this week's session, we're now moving into a possession-based game, focusing on passing and moving. Okay, so how we're going to have our players split up now is in 3 groups of 4. Okay, so obviously you can change the players, you can swap them over quite easily throughout the drill. Obviously, if you want players to swap over, obviously give them some rest as well. So in terms of the setup, okay, we're going to go with 25 yards of width, okay, and then we're going to go 50 yards of total depth. So it's going to be 20, 10 and 20. We're trying to give them space, okay, to move into. All right, obviously it's only 4v4 in here plus the 2 floaters, okay, but we're trying to get the players to move up the pitch into space and give them space to move into, okay. So when it's 2v3 in here, we want the players to be able to move into areas where they can receive the ball and not be moving too tight when a floater's got it. And obviously as well, if the other team's got all of their defenders, okay, there's 7 players in one area, so we want the players to have the ability to stretch the pitch into space. So the main aim of the game is, obviously, we're going to be looking at getting the ball from one side of the pitch to the other with the help of using the floaters. Don't have to use the floaters to switch play, okay, but obviously they're going to stay in here. So there's your link in midfield. It can go back in to switch again. So the team who's got the ball isn't allowed all 4 players in one box. This is because obviously if we have all 4 players in here, we've got no out ball. How are we going to move the ball forward? Because then it'll take movement from somebody else to go out. So obviously we can have 3 players in here and leave 1 player, but then obviously it's a 1v1 scenario. But when the floaters get it, okay, obviously we can have other players moving off. So think about that balance, because when you have the floaters, okay, it might be a 2v3 in here, but with the floaters, okay, it becomes a 5v3. And obviously we can have players moving in and out. So there's no set positions for them. Defenders can move anywhere. You can have all 4 defenders in one box if they want to put pressure on. So we're just going to keep doing a point system. When you switch the play, okay, to decide it's a goal, okay. So we're going to be starting here, gets played in, okay. So we've got the 2v3, so they're looking to close down. Can we look to play into the floaters quickly? When we play into the floaters, that movement to the other side. So when we're saying about passing and moving, okay, so once we play the ball in here, not standing still, okay, providing support, providing options for the players. So then if this player comes in short, okay, and takes someone away, then we can look to go to the other side, and then we can get support from deeper players, okay, because then 2 defenders might come in here and make it a 3v3. We play into the floater, okay, defender might close the floater down even though they can't win it off them. We get a player taking a player across, move out into space, okay, and then obviously there's a 1v1 in here. We can drive, can we play across to the floater? We've got a player going on the overlap. This player stretches play, we play across again, and then we're playing through. Okay, so obviously when we win the ball back, so the greens are in here, let's say it's a 3v3, gets played in, and they put pressure on, they win the ball, look to play the floater, okay, to get that transition, to secure the ball. One player then might decide to move out, even into the middle for now, and then obviously we're trying to create that space. The floaters, obviously we're looking for the floaters to receive the ball on the half turn. Why? So then we can look and play forward and move up the pitch, and we're playing in here. Okay, so it's as if we're moving from obviously defensive third or middle third to final third, defensive third into the final third using those floaters, okay? So moving that ball up the pitch quite quickly, okay? So occupy the space, okay? Create space for our teammates as well with our movement. So players sometimes think of obviously getting attracted to the ball. So what we're trying to teach the players is, okay, one player goes in, can we look to stretch it? And then that player can get missed out, and we're playing into space, and then obviously makes the opposition out of shape, okay, it means they've got to hurry back and scramble, where then we can try and penetrate them, obviously in a game, playing through the thirds, and then obviously in that final third looking to score. We will now move into our next animation before moving on to this week's 4-corner model. Now taking a look at this week's 4-corner model, starting off with technical and tactical. Okay, so we're looking at moving the ball quickly. Okay, so we say this quite a lot. The quicker we move the ball, the harder it is for the opposition to defend against. Okay, so the quicker we're moving the ball across the pitch, it's harder for the opposition to move across as a unit, and then gaps appear. Okay, the more that we hold on to the ball and take extra touches, okay, it's easier, for opposition defences, midfielders and the attacks to set and get behind the ball. Okay, so the quicker that we move the ball from side to side, okay, and we look to play forward, the harder it is to defend against. Okay, we've got our trust ourselves, so then we're looking at our receiving skills. So then how do we receive the ball? We're receiving on half turn to go forward, Okay, again, because it opens out our options, it enables us to go forward. If there's no forward option, we can play back, we can play to the side, we can keep recycling the ball. Whereas if we enter with a closed body, okay, we can only go one way. So obviously, if we know that we've got a player on our back, we are going to try and receive it, but by playing out, obviously, the way that we're facing, but that means that we're trying to protect the ball as well. And then finally, we're looking at our movement both on and off the ball. So movement on the ball is obviously movement into areas where we can find players, obviously, who are going to be in space. Okay, moving into areas where we can penetrate the opposition, and then movement off the ball to create space for our teammates who are on it. Okay, to provide options as well. So when we're saying about, obviously, if we make a run on the blind side of the defender, we create space on the outside for somebody else to move into. So the players have to realise that, obviously, the movements, if we move towards the ball too much, it's easy to defend, okay, because the players can lock on. If we move away from the ball, space becomes available, obviously, in between the lines for players to vacate and get on the ball. Then moving into the psychological corner, starting off with decision making, okay, so making decisions quickly, okay, so obviously when we're looking to pass and move, okay, we need to move quickly, okay, we need to pass the ball quickly, and then when we're receiving, we need to know where the next pass is going to be. Not when the ball's coming towards us, then looking up, we need to obviously assess, okay, and scan our surroundings before the ball's even approached us to see what options we have. So then we're looking at our awareness, our spatial awareness of what's around us, okay? So it's checking the shoulders, okay? It's having a little glance to see, right, there's the defender, okay, I'm going to take the ball inside him so I can travel inside the pitch into space. I'm going to pull out wide, okay, because there's the defender obviously coming, obviously to press the ball, which means that the space left inside the pitch for somebody else to move into, and then we can look to spin in behind, okay? And then finally, showing willingness to get on the ball, okay? So being brave to get on the ball in possession, okay, willingness to play forward, so being able to take those risks in possession to move further up the pitch. Moving into our physical corner, one of the main ones, okay, is tempo and intensity. So when we're saying about reducing the touches, okay, moving the ball quickly, it's got to be at a high tempo, high intensity, which makes it difficult for the opposition to defend. So then we're looking at our speed, both of our movements, okay, so moving into space quickly, moving across defenders, okay, dragging them out into areas quickly for players to vacate the space, and then movements, obviously, speed on our passes, speed of play, so tying into that intensity and tempo. So the speed of the passes, okay, firing into people when we're obviously 20, 30 yards away, but obviously we don't want to fire them in too much when someone's 10 yards away. We want obviously just play it in so they can delicately try and play first time to somebody else. And then finally, we're going to be looking at our body shape as well. So going back to our receiving skills, how do we receive the ball? What's our body shape towards the ball and where we want to play to? Okay, so obviously putting ourselves on that angle from where the ball's coming from to where we want to play to, okay, being able to protect the ball. So if we are receiving with our back to goal, being able to hold the defender off or the opposition player off, okay, to stop them getting access to the ball, which means we can get fouls and obviously take the ball higher up the pitch again. And now finally, moving into our social corner, starting off with communication. So the simple basics when we're playing a ball, time, man on, can we look to turn, okay? Again, with communication, telling someone to vacate the space, okay? So if you move inside, telling one of the players, yes, obviously move down the line, can you move inside? Little bits of information like that. Positive reinforcement from the coaches and the players for players to get on the ball, obviously to take the chances and take the risks. And then finally, the encouragement. So encouraging players to get on the ball, encouraging players to play forward, because sometimes when we're keeping possession and we're moving the ball quickly, some players just don't want to take the risk because they don't want to be the player who loses the ball. So it's giving the players that opportunity to say, if you make a mistake, it's okay, we can look to win it back. We're trying to do the right things by playing forward quickly. Now moving into the final part of this week's session, we're now moving into a small-sided game-based scenario, which is focusing on passing and moving. Okay, so obviously there's no goals included, but we're looking on obviously a point system for how we're going to be scoring goals. So the setup for this session, okay, we're going to have 45 yards of total depth, and obviously the players who are in behind here, behind the line, can move wherever they want. We don't want them obviously going too far back, okay, but they can give themselves a few yards. So we're doing 15-yard boxes. So we've got a defensive third, midfield third, final third, and obviously so the way around when we're attacking the opposite side. And then in terms of width, okay, we're going 25 yards of width again. So we're encouraging players to play into space. So what we're focusing on is trying to move the ball from the defensive third, okay, to the floater. The floater being obviously the final ball to then go to score. So we're looking to penetrate. So anyone's free to move anywhere, but what we're looking for is we don't want all five players, okay, coming into the defensive third, because how are we then going to get the ball through midfield and into the final third? So we have obviously players in the middle third. We can have 3 players starting in here. The one player might move up. So different point system. If, let's say, the Blues are attacking this way, they get the ball from the defensive third straight to the floater, that's 1 point. So if we've got no options, okay, if players are obviously marked, okay, and there's no options, but there's no pressure on the ball, obviously the player's going to enable to go long, okay, so we might be bringing our striker into play. If we move the ball from the defensive third into the middle third, and then we play through, okay, so that final ball from midfield, we get 2 points. If we move the ball from the defensive third into the midfield third and into the final third and then to the floater, we get 3 points because we've moved the ball through the thirds, we moved it high, okay, and we've obviously seen passing movements both on and off the ball. And then we look to attack the other way. So let's say, for instance, though, the Greens win the ball back in the middle third and then they play straight into the floater there, that's 2 points. So obviously, if they win the ball back in the defensive third, okay, and here, obviously, if the Blues are trying to attack this way first and the Greens win it back, they'll look to attack the other way first. So let's say the Blues do attack, okay, and you get players up the pitch, okay, these throw an extra defender in here, they leave a 2-on-1 in there, and we play the ball, we're instantly looking to attack the other way. So then what the trick is, these players in here don't just stand in here, okay, so can we look to then move out, we take a defender out, player comes in to vacate space, okay, there's a bit of confusion, okay, we can play in, receive on the turn, this player comes back into play, then we've got to overload in the final third, okay, to open out, play, and then we'll go to there. So there's 3 points. However, we could then get the ball and we have three defenders pressing in here, okay, and we have one attack in the middle and 2 in the final third, okay, and these have all 5 in here. So then we can literally receive the ball in here and switch into there, okay. Then we get obviously the 1 point. But if we receive it in the defenders and they switch into the final third here and play, and they get 2 points. So if they miss one out, okay, obviously we're not going to give them all 3 points, but we've opened out there, okay, this player's dragged this player into space, we've played a lovely through ball into a wide area, and then we're in there, there's 2 points, and then we can look to penetrate them again. So then if the Greens do end up winning the ball back, okay, so we could have a player obviously trying to take a player into space, we try and play through to the midfield third, win it back, then we're going to look to turn instantly and then go and score. Okay, so move that ball up the pitch. Okay, we get players into space there, we're looking to play through. So obviously we're focusing on, okay, that tempo, that intensity by moving the ball quickly. So our spatial awareness. So then if we've got 3 players in here and there's 2 defenders, wait there, we don't all need to be in here. We're all standing on the floater's toes. Can one player pull out? So if this player pulls out, can we go on that blind side, like which we were talking about before, receiving space, and then we've got space to drive into, okay? Can we get a defender closing down? There's the space out wide. There we go. So obviously our attacking principles, height, width and depth. Okay, so making the pitch wide because it's harder then for the defenders. Okay, we've got width here. Okay, we can have a player then dropping in. Okay, there's our height, width and depth. So obviously if the players are in here and these players are central, this player's high. Okay, when we receive the ball in these areas, okay, we're playing to people with players on the back. Okay, and it's going to be down to a bit of individual brilliance then for players to move. In a game situation as well, we're trying to replicate it so we play high and wide. Okay, so wingers get wide, fullbacks in possession get wide, okay, stretch the pitch and make it more difficult for teams to defend. We will now move into our final animation before concluding this week's session. Thanks for watching this week's video. For more content, follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook and TikTok. The links will be in the description below, and we'll see you next week for another Session Sunday.